With India's increasing in resonating presence on the world map, China's renewed interest in the world's largest growing economy is understandable. The once all-weather ally of Pakistan, China has taken systematic steps to distance itself from India's arch rival and nemesis in a bid to maintain cordial ties with India. Case in point, China's withdrawal of support to Pakistan on the FATF. Of course, now comes this big step forward that has been taken by China of inviting Prime Minister Modi to Wuhan for a two-day informal summit that has concluded today. The Prime Minister is on his way back to India, but this is a story that has grabbed headlines, with many calling it a milestone in India-China ties. All right, this is a call-in show. We've opened our phone lines. Soon we will flash the number that you can call on our screen. Pick up your phone, share your thoughts with us. How do you think the India-China relationship is likely to move ahead following this historic summit, even though it's been described as an informal one? And what does this mean for the China-Pakistan relationship? Let's also throw this open to our panel. I am joined by Ambassador Surendra Kumar. Madhaw Anand, SR Group International Relations Head, is also with us, and keeping me company also here in the studio is my colleague and our Strategic Affairs Editor, Ashish Singh. Ashish, let me begin with you. There are many different aspects of this that we need to look at. There's been so much talk about how, the India-China relationship almost went into a deep freeze following Doklam last year. And now, if you look at at least the symbolism of this informal summit of the last 2 days, it looks like we've already come a long way. What do you think has gone down?
Well, it's the realization both on the military domain and in economic domain that it's important for India and China to remain united, not only just in terms of the stability of both the countries, but also for the region and as far as the international community is concerned. If you see from the population point of view, as Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping has mentioned, approximately 40% of the world's total population live in these two countries. So it's important. We are the biggest stakeholders if India and China put together in terms of population. So that is one realization that has taken place. Second, we have realized that both the countries cannot afford to go to war because we are the two fastest growing major economies in the world. After that, the economic relations. If you see in the recent history of approximately 2,000 years, out of those approximately 1,600 years, India and China have put together approximately 50% of the world's total economy. So these are the main factors which have been stated by Prime Minister Modi and Premier Xi as well in this 1.5-day bilateral summit. And if you look at these numbers very carefully, both the countries coming together, growing in the same positive manner is beneficial for both. And if we come at loggerheads, we both will lose. Also, the strategic decisions from India point of view and from China point of view. From India point of view, Pakistan will emerge as one of the biggest losers as far as the India-China-Pakistan triangle relation is concerned. Second, from China point of view, the kind of pressure they have been feeling from US side, so China will also get little leverage and freeway as far as the economy is concerned, and less reliance on US as far as the economic relations are concerned. So both the countries have their respective stronger positive reasons to come together, and that's what exactly is happening. And it is not an episodic thing. The way Prime Minister Modi mentioned that he invited Chinese President Xi Jinping to come to India next year for the similar informal summit. It appears that both the countries have decided to keep it a thematic format instead of just one of the meetings before the SCO or arising out of the recent situations post-Doklam. It's going to be a long-term thematic subject, and will be both the countries would be getting benefit out of it.
All right, Ambassador Wayne here. Ashish says this is certainly not episodic. We've already seen an announcement that Prime Minister Modi has invited President Xi to India for a similar informal summit. Next year, the dates are going to be worked out. Where do the two countries go from here? As I was asking Ashish earlier, the Doklam standoff was one of the lowest ebbs in the India-China relationship. But of course, a lot of water has flowed under the bridge between then and now. Whether it's the fact that India successfully stood up to China during that time, whether it is the fact that the Chinese president is now more powerful than ever before, having become president practically for life, or whether it is the growing trade tensions that we are witnessing between the US and China. But according to you, what really has been the tipping point for China to have reached out to Prime Minister Modi in the manner in which it has?
Look, Chinese are a methodical person. They don't really tip by one argument. So many factors which you have summarized, and he did it. Combination of factors. First, I really don't agree with you that after Doklam we didn't go deep freeze. No. Actually, these two leaders...
But that was a very low point in the bilateral relationship.
But these two leaders who are meeting, they are the ones who played a major role in diffusing Doklam behind the scene. So they are personally very responsible.
Correct.
And they realize that, look, this is not the way. We should avoid repetition of these countries. They have been saying. And after USA, China is the only country with the largest number of interaction delegations going at the level of ministers, secretaries all the time. I think relationship is multi-dimensional.
Okay.
All the domestic compulsions which they have and which we have, internal circumstances the Prime Minister himself referred to, and then certainly the tension currently between USA and China.
Okay.
But if you go wide, when Trump and Modi met, we had joint vision for Asia Pacific and India Pacific. For who's the target? China. When Macron came, again the statement, you read it. Target is China. We are talking about joint vision for Asia Pacific, Indo-Pacific, only targeting China because we are worried about all South China Sea, all the neighbors are... Now, China feels that, look, we are a country which has problems with all these neighbors. And India is a country which is joining these major countries like, let's say, UK or Germany or France and USA. And also being part of a strategic vision which is against targeting against China. Certainly, we must really be on the good side, on the right side of the country. And I think this is a win-win situation. I think.
Just to add to that, we should go a little beyond as far as, this... it's not just the regional issues. This meeting, 1.5 day meeting, has the potential to change the international scenario. The so far perception and the image was of elephant versus dragon, and this is not going to just irritate Islamabad. It's going to have a long-term impact on US as well, on France as well, on Britain as well. So this is something that's going to change not only just the geopolitical situation, but the international scenario.
So the whole world will be looking with great interest at where the India-China relationship goes. And Ashish is making the important point that this isn't confined to the Indian Ocean. It goes way beyond that. The ramifications go beyond just the geopolitics of the region. We will discuss that in greater detail. But at this point, I want to go across to our callers. We have Govind and Kalpana Ravi on the phone line with us. Govind, let me come to you first. How do you see the India-China relationship going forward after this summit? A lot is being said about how Pakistan would be very unhappy.
इंडिया-चाइना की जो रिलेशनशिप है वो सिर्फ एक दिखावा है, क्योंकि जो अमेरिका से जो इंडिया की दोस्ती बढ़ती जा रही है, एक तो उसको बैलेंस करने के लिए जो है इंडिया जो है वो चाइना जो इंडिया से फ्रेंडशिप का हाथ बढ़ा है, क्योंकि अमेरिका सुपर पावर है। दूसरा अपना बिजनेस और जो इसने जो प्रेशर बनाया था डोकलाम के मामले में, इसलिए जो है वो उसका प्रेशर ठंडा हो गया चीन का, तो वो स्ट्रक्चर में बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए
All right, Govind. Thanks very much for sharing your views with us. Kalpana Ravi, come in here. Many calling this a historic shift in India-China ties. Others saying, let's tread cautiously. How would you view the last 2 days?
The last 2 days has been brilliant, but yes, I would really say is that we need to tread cautiously, because I still think that one has to take China with a pinch of salt or a bag of salt. Yet they have to prove that they really want to fight terrorism, and they will not veto India in the UN on Masood Assad and declare him as a terrorist. There is a lot of other things which China needs to prove, but this meeting has been successful. It's a great win-win for India, and I hope China treads the line and China keeps up to the promises of fighting terror together. Thank you.
All right, Kalpana, thanks very much for that. Prasoon Sharma, let me come to you now. You know, Ashish earlier was making the point about how this is not confined just to the Indian Ocean. Of course, the ambassador making the point that China has troubles with a lot of its neighbors, and therefore perhaps, and given the growing tension between the US and China, this is probably a good time and an opportunity for China to reach out to India. But Ashish makes the point, well, you know, this goes beyond just the geopolitics of the region. How do you look at it?
Yes, I agree with Ashish, and one of the updates just relevant to this is that one of my article which proposes Asian Silicon Valley has just been published by Chinese government media, and that is also endorsed by one of the deputy of National People's of Congress of China. And that gives two aspects, like one, we connect Bangalore and Shenzhen to create a ecosystem for our startups. Second, we establish a joint innovation TV challenge. So this is again a positive, but a small step, but a positive outcome from China, which I wanted to highlight.
Okay.
And this also on the background of, like you say, trade war between US and China, because if you see in Silicon Valley, almost 30 to 35% of investors and startups.
All right, Mr. Sharma, we will come back in just a moment. We seem to be having a bit of a problem with his connection there. Madhav, come in here. You know, of course, the expectations have not been very high as far as this entire summit is concerned, because we had been told at the very outset that there would be no big bang announcements. However, the fact that India and China are now going to undertake a joint economic project in Afghanistan is being viewed as a very significant development, both in China and India, and dare I say in Islamabad, with many saying, well, you know, Pakistan is not going to be happy. Ashish has been pointing out how China is the only major ally that Pakistan is left with. It's already made certain noises in the past suggesting that, you know, it will not always do Pakistan's bidding as far as India is concerned. And now this major step forward, not just in China-India ties, but with China also sending out the signal that India is welcome in Afghanistan, something that is likely to be anathema to Islamabad.
It's a good step. We should appreciate this step. But at the same time, China is supporting Pakistan in a big way, and the funding of the terrorism. So that's a big question mark, because we have discussed a lot of issues with we have issues with Pakistan as well as China. But every time we are seeing that means China is supporting Pakistan and funding the terrorism activities. That's a big question thing. And at the same time, you are talking about the trade, and at the same time, we are talking about the boundary issues and the Pakistan issues, international issues. So there is a trust factor. And as I told you, that now China is in problem. India is not in problem, because China is not sharing a good relation with almost all Southeast Asian countries. But so China wants some kind of help from the India, and we should take the benefit of that situation. And I think that the Indian Prime Minister is very intelligent, very clever, and he will definitely do something good for the India.
All right, Ashish, I want to bring you back into the conversation, and I want to play the devil's advocate. You know, I agree that it is a major step forward. The fact that India and China are for the first time going to engage in a joint economic project in Afghanistan. The details of which are not available to us right now. We don't know the nature of this project, and you know, could it be something that actually helps China take India closer to BRI, something that India has so far been uncomfortable with. But looking at this entire Pakistan angle, Ashish, I know that you are very bullish on it. But like I said, I'm playing the devil's advocate. Many would say go by past experience. You know, it's not for nothing that China is described as Pakistan's all-weather ally. There continue to be a lot of thorny issues in India-China relations thanks to Pakistan. It is thanks to the Pakistan angle that you have China refusing to recognize Maulana Masood Azhar as a global terrorist. It is thanks to Pakistan that you have China not allowing India membership of the NSG. And also the fact that every time India brings up, you know, the issue of Pakistan sponsoring terror, you have China coming to Pakistan's defense saying, well, Pakistan is a victim of terror as well. Ashish, realistically, is any of that going to change anytime soon?
See, what is the Indian government doing at this point of time? Yes, the cautious forward steps is the highlighting factor. The trust deficit between India and China from 62 war onwards has been the highlighting and the most important aspect between the two countries, between the elephant and the dragon. But what the Indian government is doing, keeping the past plus the present and the future in mind as well. China has been slightly bending towards Pakistan for pure economic reasons. At the same time, we must also take into consideration the way Chinese have taken few steps forward. Masood Azhar, NSG have been the major issues between India and China. At the same time, just 2 months ago, the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, the international body which has kept Pakistan on the grey list and the watch list, that has also been done by China's support. So all these steps must be taken into consideration.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, it's not just the past. Yes, we must remember the past, but at the same time, remember the present situation and the future, what's good for us. So that is very clear. Will it compel India to take a softer stand on CPEC or BRI? It seems that from whatever I've gathered from the top sources in the MEA, that our stand will remain very strong, and what we have maintained so far, because it's beyond the economy. It's about the sovereign rights of the India as a country.
Unless, of course, China is willing to address India's concerns about sovereignty, because there's also been talk about rerouting.
If China goes through that, the CPEC will not be practically possible. They cannot take this detour.
They cannot be
out
rerouted.
Yeah.
Okay, because there has been some talk about whether there can be a middle path for China to address India's concerns of sovereignty.
It's like this now. We have like 10 issues between India and China. 5 or 6 of them are agreeable. So let's work on it. Let's keep the issues which we cannot. So instead of making all the 10 issues on hold, let's take few steps forward, which is beneficial for both the countries. Primarily for India. Let's take it forward. As I mentioned, it's not just the past, the present, the future has also been kept in mind.
The future is being kept in mind. I think that is key. Ambassador, come in here. You know, Ashish is making the important point that the message that's going out following the summit is, let's not be prisoners of the past. Yes, we've had a checkered past. As far as the Sino-Indian relationship is concerned, it's been a very, very complex and a difficult relationship. And focusing even on the Pakistan angle for a moment, I think there are enough skeptics in India who would say, you know, they are best friends. China is not going to desert Pakistan for India overnight. But, you know, Ashish is making the point, this isn't just about the past. This is much more about the future. And China does see a vested interest in, investing in a strong, robust relationship with India going forward, because whether anyone likes it or not, it is today about economics. Do you think that is the way ahead for India and China?
It's not only economy. Let's face it. India, China, bilateral trade. How much is this? 1/4 of...
No, but that is something that needs to be addressed, because these are two Asian giants you're talking about.
Go by reality and potentials. India, China, economic relations can never be anywhere closer to US, China. Or even China or Japan. Economic one factor, no, strategic important more. Now convergence. Xi Jinping goes to Davos, he talks about globalization. This time Modi goes to, they are the two advocates of globalization today.
And Trump is taking America backwards by talking about protectionism.
So globalization, they are one.
Yes.
Come to WTO. Both countries are on there. Come to climate change. There are 3 global major
growing areas of convergence between India and China which haven't existed in the past, you say.
Now, going earlier, Deng Xiaoping said they follow same policy all the time. They say, so long as pluses are more than minuses, relationship is good. So long as, same the ambassador wrote article saying what? Cooperation and differences can be managed so long as our cooperation is bigger than competition. And so we are pragmatic people. They are really thinking it is in their larger interest.
I take that point, and I think the point that you make about how there seem to be growing areas of convergence between India and China, whether it is on WTO, whether it's on the need for globalization, or even recognition of climate change, something that Trump continues to be in denial about. And Trump also, like I said, taking America in the opposite direction as far as trade is concerned, because the focus there is completely America first and protectionism, and therefore is this something that could also act as a glue in ties between India and China? We will take that conversation further, but at this point my director tells me I need to go across to two of our viewers who are on the phone line, Dr. Hafiz and Dr. Subramaniam. Dr. Hafiz, if I could come to you first, your take on what we've seen in the last 2 days.
Just I would like to say one thing, that if we would like to increase our export in China, immediately we need languages. We need languages, Chinese language to be given much importance in CBSE schools, especially in all the capital cities, so that we can understand the Chinese culture and Chinese demands as far as. And as far as economic concern in India, in India, we need immediately at least 100 branded international companies. And I mean, because until and unless if we don't move for branded international companies, it would be impossible to compete with Chinese market. Because when I had been in Africa,
right,
that time I found that China already captured in African markets even in major economic front side.
Right.
Whereas we are still now ignoring everything. That's why what I would like to request that immediately the government should take the importance of Chinese language in seriously.
All right. I think,
so
Dr. Asif, nobody will dispute the fact that there is huge trade imbalance between India and China, and this is a worry, an issue that needs to be addressed. But surely we need to take some steps forward, and it can only happen one step at a time. This is not an equation which is going to change overnight. But thank you very much for your comments. Dr. Subramaniam is also with us. Dr. Subramaniam, go ahead. How positive are you really about what is being described by many as a shift in India-China relations? Do you see it as that?
You see, the point is that needs to be realized is, dealing with a country like China, one needs a certain realistic approach. This overdrive on an informal meeting should not take us anywhere. Actually, you have to wait for the meeting in the SCO in June. And I'm sorry, I differ with the ambassador to say that China feels isolated in Southeast Asia. I think this is nothing but short of nonsense. Don't mind my saying it. How can it be? I mean, China.
Well, you're entitled to your view, sir.
Yes,
what you're saying is, let's not be too excited about this, okay?
No, it's an exercise in absurdity.
Okay, strong words there coming from Dr. Subramaniam. Clearly someone who is not very bullish on what's just happened. Like we said, opinion on this is of course divided, especially given that the two countries share a checkered past. Before I throw this back to our panelists, let's also take another call at this point. Anand Dixit is on the phone line. Mr. Dixit, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, in foreign policies, one should not expect miracles, and that too with China. Secondly, this particular situation that Mr. Modi has created, actually he is burying this second, third, fourth, nth track diplomacy, and he is doing it on its own. That's why it is informal. And foreign policy is constantly mutating to demands of the situation. So you don't expect anything miraculous.
I think that's a fair point, Anil Dixit. We agree with you. I think the entire panel will agree with you there that we can't really expect any miracles because after all, foreign policy is a very, very complex subject, and there can only be incremental changes, especially where you have such a complex relationship. Thanks very much, Anil Dixit, for your views. Prasoon Sharma coming here. You know, many of our viewers expressing skepticism, and perhaps you can't blame them because, like I keep saying, India and China have a very checkered past. There are still a lot of thorny, vexed, unresolved issues, not just the border dispute, and also the fact that, as some have rightly pointed out, foreign policy and foreign relations are really not about big bang announcements. It's really not about event management. It can only be about incremental change that can come over time. Is that a fair assessment?
It is actually, and this is not just an event, this Wuhan Summit. You see, there is a lot of groundwork has been done, and yes, you rightly said foreign policy is it's not an event, but it's a process, and this process started way back. Like you see, there are multiple visits starting from foreign secretary, NSA, Minister of External Affairs, Defense Minister, and then the Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog, where there was a detailed discussion on around 5 major groups.
Okay.
So after exhausting all these levels, the issues or you say the problems which were not solved, was given to the next level, that is the topmost level. That is Prime Minister Modi and President Xi.
That's a fair point. You are saying that a lot of groundwork has been done. You've had officials of the two countries meet. And let's not forget, Madhav, coming here, even Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping have met several times, even abroad, 14 times on the sidelines of various multilateral fora. This is a relationship that has been built brick by brick over the last 4 years since Prime Minister Modi came to power.
In the last 4 years, both the leaders have met several times on several occasions in several countries. But the problem is we are talking about trade is increasing day by day. Definitely, China is the largest trading partner of India. But at the same time, we can see that the most of the issues are the very sensitive issues, like the boundary issues, like the Arunachal Pradesh issues, the Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Still, citizen of Arunachal Pradesh, people of Arunachal Pradesh are getting a staple visa from the China.
Correct.
So, and when the NDA government came in power in 2014, the Honorable Prime Minister clearly told at that time that he will try to solve all the major issues with the China and Pakistan. And he is one of the strongest leaders in the world. So the people of citizen, now the people of India is very much hopeful that the Modi, the Honorable Prime Minister will definitely solve all the old issues. And now that means now that this Prime Minister is going to be...
you know, I can't help but feel a little amused that, you know, even as we talk about how these are two very powerful leaders who have it in them to resolve all our outstanding issues, fact is we are all admitting that it's been 4 years and yet all these outstanding issues still remain unresolved. That just is a sobering thought for us, Ashish, of how complex this relationship is, which is why we can't afford to get carried away even as we are optimistic about this.
And certainly, see, we're dealing with China, and it's a lot emerges from the local situations within India and China as well. You can see it in a different manner. For example, we did Doklam after Prime Minister Modi became one of the strongest ever leader in India with thumping majority in 2014 Lok Sabha election. So we did our 56 inch ki chhati, and we continued Doklam for more than 2 months. But now situation has changed a bit. President Xi Jinping has been, now he's re-elected and has the option of continuing as the lifetime leader of China. So now we are going to go for the election. So the situation is changing, but what is important is instead of keeping ourselves engaged with one particular Doklam issue. See, when the Doklam thing happened, no major statement came from the top of either of the country.
That's right.
It was being dealt at mostly with media to media, the unprecedented Chinese media attack, slightly more if you go to certain officials of the army. But beyond that, there was no...
Perhaps also a reminder of not just the important role played by the two leaders in resolving that issue, but also the personal chemistry that they've been working on and building over time. And as I've been saying, perhaps President Xi is also counting on Prime Minister Modi being re-elected to power next year and winning another big mandate for this personal chemistry and the relationship between the two countries to carry forward. Of course, whether that will happen still remains a million-dollar question. The answer we will have only a year from now. But I'm told I'm completely out of time. I'd like to thank our panel for joining us on the show.
You will get...
मम्मी ने यूनिफॉर्म सबसे